I like to sort of explain zakat as a membership fee. That's how I like to explain it, because I think it's a very easy way for people to understand what it is that we're talking about. It's almost like, as a Muslim, you're part of sort of Club Islam, right? And this is your membership fee, basically. And then those funds are used to make the environment as conducive as possible to basically a good life, a confident, faithful life for the community at large. That really is the point of zakat. Collecting and distributing zakat locally within the Muslim community in the United Kingdom, we have a sort of an acute sense of what the impact has been. So we've seen a fourfold increase in applications, to NZF over the last year. So in 2020 versus 2019. So it's been a significant increase. Disproportionately, we've had a massive level of applications into the hardship relief fund. So this is where we provide a quick access grant, which typically can provide between 2 to 4 weeks worth of sort of support for someone. So it's not very long term, but it's extremely helpful when someone has had a shock scenario, has just, for example, lost their job or lost their source of income. Sometimes even people who fall into difficulty in this country, they themselves may not appreciate or understand that the level of difficulty or desperation that they themselves could get into even whilst being in the United Kingdom. Because even from within the country as well as outside the country, there is a perception that no, everyone's fine. There's no way there's poverty. But you see these scenarios where, for a few days, a man is really struggling to even provide the absolute basics. And large parts of the population in the country are, without their, are living, very much week to week, month to month. So any shock situation means that they are, all of a sudden, their situation becomes very vulnerable. Muslims are disproportionately represented in terms of their work in what have been some of the most vulnerable sectors, in the economy over the last 12 months. And so, job losses, redundancies, all of these things have affected kind of Muslims disproportionately. Muslim families largely are living with their extended families. There's been like a double hit. So basically, in terms of caring for loved ones, as well as obviously the economic difficulties. The Muslim Census findings, their finding was specifically in relation to the effect of the pandemic on the Muslim community versus the wider population. Prior to the pandemic, we also know that already it was the case that the Muslim community is the poorest community in the United Kingdom. If you look at the two biggest ethnic populations that comprise the Muslim community in this country, which is the Pakistani and the Bangladeshi communities, then all of the statistics for some time have shown that they are at the bottom end of the economic scale. 50% of Muslims in the United Kingdom live in the 10% most deprived areas of the country as well. So prior to the pandemic, there was already an issue.
The reality is that our vulnerable have become more vulnerable. Our elders, those of us in poverty, low-paid workers, those whose livelihoods have been affected, damaged, or lost.
We have seen also, by the way, just to mention, a very large influx of applications from asylum seekers as well, who in a way have become, already a very vulnerable group. An asylum seeker in this country has to survive on £35 a week. Yes, accommodation is provided, but oftentimes in very remote and far-off places, and where they're often disconnected from, the wider community, or say the wider Muslim community, because 90% of asylum seekers in this country are from Muslim countries. Last year, the first lockdown kicked in 3 or 4 weeks before Ramadan began. And then we obviously saw the big impact. 3 to 4 weeks prior to Ramadan, the number of applications we were receiving was really skyrocketing. But at the same time, the zakah giving in Ramadan was the highest we've ever seen as well. So there was something about the Muslim reaction in this kind of crisis situation, which actually increased our generosity all round, just generally the sense of generosity, as well as the local kind of sort of connection as well.
I believe in the power of zakat.
Because I can offer the same respect and dignity that I would hope for if I was in difficulty.
Zakat is an obligatory payment that Muslims make, and it is a core part of our faith. Pay zakat once a year, which typically is 2.5% of our disposable kind of wealth or assets, and then that's distributed, to various causes and needs in the community. When people apply to us, they apply for support from within one of 4 different funds. We have a hardship relief fund, a housing fund, a work fund, and an education fund.
And I raise up my community to feel confident and faithful for the benefit of society as a whole.
I know that if I ever have to ask for help, you be there for me.
You see, one thing is very important for viewers to understand is that people rarely only have a financial difficulty. Usually financial difficulties come accompanied with, some sort of, it could be sometimes some sort of domestic abuse situation that someone has faced, some other kind of trauma, family breakup, marriage kind of stresses and strains. It could be health issues within the family. Usually there's things come together and they compound, which makes it a really stressful situation. So the value of actually providing some hope, some upliftment for an individual or a family who is struggling, it really can't be overemphasized. Because what it does, and this, by the way, is the core purpose of zakat, is that it's not just about providing the material support. It's about providing the emotional support, actually the spiritual strength that gives someone. Because what we have heard so many times from people who are in difficulty is that the support helped them believe again, help them feel connected to their community again. And that's actually the point of zakat. The point of zakat is to preserve a scenario or a situation where people's faith can at least be in a reasonably healthy place.